Hey everyone, welcome to another video. Today we're going to talk about issue number 46 of Wolverine, written by Victor Lavelle and Benjamin Percy. But before we dive into the story, I want to ask you a favor. If you enjoy this video, please leave a like and a comment to help the channel grow. So with that said, we pick up right after the events of the previous issue, with Sabretooth standing face to face with this former comrade. Because in the previous issue, Sabretooth used Quentin's head to manipulate Wolverine into believing that they were back during their Weapon X days. Because during his previous encounter with Forge's security, Kid Omega made it very clear that he would not be able to make it through the rest of the defenses without help. So with Wolverine's temporary loyalty back on his side, Sabretooth then goes on to give him a full rundown on what this slash-and-grab mission requires. And on a side note, I did like how they had half the page in reality and the other half took place in Sabretooth's mind prison. But anyway, getting back on topic. Sabretooth informs Logan that their goal was to swim to a lab underwater and take custody of the weapons within. Now Wolverine does ask who they were keeping the weapons from, in which Creed replies by saying, "That part doesn't really matter, for they are just bullets, and bullets that don't think, they don't ask questions, all a bullet is good for is to make a mess." So as the two descend down into the dark cold waters, Kid Omega's head makes a point to point out that he recognizes that Sabretooth actually enjoys working with Wolverine. So with that out there, Creed immediately told Quentin to shut up and mind his own business, in which he followed his direction and did as he was told. But because of that direct order, he was unable to fill Creed in on the incoming missiles heading their way. So as the explosions go off around them, we transition to the Maroon with the Exiles coming in for round 2 against the Stark Sentinels. So, as the ship comes in flying hot, it is immediately made clear that they have zero chance of getting past the Stark Sentinels. But that is when Nekra reminds Oya that revenge isn't supposed to come easy. So with that said, she then tells the ship to unload its heaviest arsenal on the Sentinels before them, despite whether it makes a difference or not. So as the ship does as it is told, an array of missiles filled the sky and flew straight into the well-prepared Sentinels. So once the missiles were shot out of the sky, the team transitioned into evasive action to avoid certain death. So as the hull of the ship is peppered with impacts, the Maroon dived into the water in order to place a buffer between them and the explosions. So with a second to breathe, Oya is once again shocked by yet another vision from Kid Omega, a vision that is telling her not to go back to the surface, but instead to dive deeper into the trenches of the water, for that is where she would find Sabretooth. So as they begin to plunge deeper, we transition back over to Sabretooth and Wolverine trying their best to fight their way into the underwater lab. So with pure resilience and force, the two managed to hit the ocean floor, and with a few well-placed slashes, Wolverine was able to easily cut their way into the lab. Now, once inside, Sabretooth begins to berate Wolverine while they made their way into the arsenal room. For the whole time they were walking, he was telling him about all the bad things he had done. Creed was telling him that they could fill Lake Superior with all the people they took out. And then he goes on to ask him if it ever makes him feel bad to the point where he wants to die 1,000,000 times over. But see, while he was too busy talking down on Wolverine, what he failed to realize was the statues around them were coming to life and completely surrounded the two of them. So with nowhere to run, they jumped into defensive positions and prepared for battle. So as their fight was about to kick off, we transitioned back over to the Exiles gearing up to make their dive. And once in the water, they started to descend into the darkness below. But once down there, they were quickly swarmed by a tentacle beast below. So with their body completely restricted, Melter asks if their suits are completely adaptable to their power, to which the ship responds by saying yes. So with a burst of energy, Melter lets loose and completely eradicates the tentacles. Now following that, we jump over to Orca Station 5, Sabretooth's head base, and when we get there, we see one of Sabretooth's soldiers bringing a meal to Laura. So once it was within her cell, Laura, who was pretending to be asleep, sprung into action and drove her claws into its chest. And with great fury, Laura proceeded to slash away over and over again until other versions of Creed entered the room to stop her. So as the fight continued, Laura was quickly beaten down and left to her own devices. But see, Laura is no fool, for she did this to get her hands on one of Sabretooth's resurrection machines. So with that piece of tech acquired, we jump back over to Sabretooth trying his best to destroy the guards, only to find out he wasn't strong enough. But just because he wasn't, didn't mean Wolverine wasn't as well, because with ease, Logan cut the guard's arms clear off, freeing Creed. So with Wolverine standing between the guards and Creed, Sabretooth dived for a weapon, only to come up short as Toad swiped the weapon up. For before him stood the exiles ready to put an end to him. But their hopes were quickly cut short as Sabretooth dashed forward and took a hold of Toad's arm and ripped it clean off and tossed his body to the side. And to make this whole situation worse, Sabretooth informs Wolverine, who is currently under his control, that they had more hostiles coming in from the back, hostiles who were actually the exiles. So as you may have guessed, Wolverine ran towards his quote-unquote friend's aid and proceeded to battle against his fellow mutants. And during their confrontation, Kid Omega's head was cast to the side, which gave him a chance to free Wolverine. But unfortunately, Kid Omega's head was a little too late, for Wolverine drove his claws into the back of Melter, and in a fatal motion, Wolverine split him into two, killing Melter on the spot. So as the realization of his actions set in, Wolverine stared down at his own hands and questioned, what exactly did he just do? In which Sabretooth tells him everything. He tells Logan that he got him into the heavily guarded lab and allowed him to get Forge's depowering weapon. And with those words, Creed opened fire on his old friend, hitting him several times in the chest, causing Wolverine to lose his healing factor. So as Wolverine looked in horror, Sabretooth runs directly to his target to finish him off. So with that said, this issue of Wolverine comes to an end. Now with that comic ending, I have to say, I'm really enjoying the Sabretooth War. In fact, I feel like the writers behind this comic are throwing everything against the wall. And it really feels like plot armor is non-existent to a certain point, because it looks like everyone could get the smoke. Between Melter dying and Toad losing his arm, and most important of all, Wolverine losing his healing factor, the sky is truly the limit to what they are allowed to do. I guess this is one of the benefits of the Krakoan era coming to an end, whether you liked it or not. So with all that said, I am really looking forward to Wolverine getting an adamantium armor in the coming issues, if only to see how far the writers could push him. So with that out there, if you want to stay in the loop about any individual storyline, then how about you hop over to the playlist section down below or in the link cards above to get all caught up on the X-Men runs. So with that established, I hope you enjoyed this video, and please don't forget to leave a like and a comment if you want to see more videos like this. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next review.